Well, hello, and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective, the podcast with subject matter experts in marketing. So, who makes the decisions for you on conversion rate optimization? Who makes the landing page design decisions based on what looks good? Is it the creative agency? Is it the executives who've been presented to by the creative agency? Or is it the data that leads you, the data driven marketer, to make decisions without biases? Brian Massey is the original conversion scientist, founder of Conversion Sciences, and a subject matter expert in conversion rate optimization. And on this episode, we'll discuss CRO, landing page and web design, A/B testing, mobile page speed, and other tools to help you optimize. So let's tune in to the original conversion scientist with an optimized shark on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Brian, thank you so much for joining me on A Shark's Perspective today. If you would, then tell us a little bit about yourself and your career to date.
Well, I'm a computer scientist by training. So I came out of that, but when I was co-oping for IBM, I saw my first IBM sales guy. Red power tie, blue coat, white shirt. And I was like, I may have just enough social skills to do that. So when I graduated, I actually went into corporate sales. IBM wasn't hiring at the time, so I was with Texas Instruments and sold semiconductors for a few years. Got promoted to my highest level of incompetence there, and decided to move back to Austin and get back into software. But the software company that I worked for, I had enough opinions on how marketing and sales was doing, and apparently I wasn't that good a programmer, as it turns out. So they put me in marketing there. During the 90s, I ran my own software consulting company, and the dot-com bust took out a couple of our clients, which essentially took us out. And so I spent the first part of the new century building the website lead generation systems for a number of technology companies here in Austin. And after trying several times to build a career along those lines, I finally decided that I just need to go do this on my own, because I wasn't a very patient employee. And so what else do you do with a computer scientist, sales, marketing, entrepreneur guy, but become a conversion scientist? So it was really quite obvious for me to go into conversion sciences. Actually, it was Brian and Jeffrey Eisenberg, a seminar that they did that I attended, that made me realize that was my calling: optimizing websites using logic and data.
Mm-hmm. Well, so today's topic is optimization, and obviously optimizing the traffic that arrives either your landing page or your websites. This is a topic that I love, especially being focused a lot of my career in lead generation. And I still think it's one of the biggest mistakes that people in lead gen, in air quote, allow people to site visitors or customers to travel through a site or just leave without knowing why. But, understanding what bright, shiny objects made them jump away or even purchase. But CRO, at least to me, should be so much more pivotal than it is today. What are you seeing that marketers are generally doing right with website and landing page optimization? And on the flip side, what are marketers generally doing wrong with that same feel?
So that's a big question. It is. The main thing that people seem to have failed to understand is that we have left the world of Mad Men style design, design of campaigns, design of websites, design of really anything in marketing, and especially in digital marketing. We no longer have to spend all of our research budget on the front end. Back in the 60s, when it was expensive to collect data, when you had to have ladies and gentlemen with clipboards standing in front of department stores asking people to take a survey, and when computers took up entire floors, you really didn't have much choice. You did as much research on the front end as you could, came up with a theme, and then your creative team made all of the assumptions and decisions about how that was going to roll out onto print, into TV, and into radio. We don't have to do that anymore. We have so much visibility into how people are behaving on our websites, how we can find out how a sample of people would react to our creative very easily, very quickly, because those tools are out there. The cloud is real. The internet has happened. And entrepreneurs are bringing us marketing tools that allow us really to question almost every assumption we make along the design and development process, um, using real behavioral data. So I tell this story about Finish Line. In 2012, November of 2012, they launched a completely redesigned website. Now, this is November. This is about a week before Black Friday. And it was a remarkable change. It was a significant branding direction. They took a whole lot of chances. And by the second week of December, they had lost $3 million
Mm.
in sales. And you have to ask, how did a well funded redesign project with a really smart agency and an executive team that knew their customers get so far down the path before they knew that this was going to be a disaster?
Hmm.
Um, and the answer is, I don't. I think they used the old style Mad Men approach to design. Um, so I can provide some graphics for your audience if you want to see what I think the new design path looks like. But it is about testing your assumptions all the way through: copy assumptions, image assumptions, layout assumptions, um, length of copy assumptions, where to place calls to action assumptions. All of those can be tested either on your audience or on a sample audience, uh, very easily and very cheaply. So we should do that.
Well, most digital marketers hopefully by now understand the basics of optimizing a site, but I struggle in conversations with a lot of them today, as I'm sure you do on a much larger scale. But I've read a comment that you've made, and I think you've said this is an ongoing concern of yours about how creative agencies are giving guidance to generally the most clueless people in the room, if you will, the marketers who work for the brand, to make the decisions that they're not really looking at the scientific data behind. Why do you think people are still moving in that direction when they should be? We've got all these tools. Why aren't they going the opposite way? Why are people still failing and making these really stupid and simple mistakes?
Well, because we've trained agencies, copywriters, creatives in general to give us what the executives will like, the highest paid person in the
Yeah.
organization will approve. Not so most of our agencies and creatives and designers and copywriters are all working for the client and not for the client's customers, which is
Mm-hmm.
really what the client should want. So it is, it's from um, long times of having them getting beat on whenever they came up with something creative and risky that people are like, oh, I would never do that, and go back and do it again, and they just get trained to do what a few executives will end up paying for. It's how they get the big projects, the stuff that looks cool, the stuff that looks revolutionary, rather than the stuff that is revolutionary. And I think that's an important distinction.
So when I first saw you present at a marketing conference, you talked about landing page optimization techniques and literally had an arrow pointing people to where you wanted them to fill out the forms as an example. Why do you think that people overclutter sites today with so much that can divert their attention from the obvious and generally only path we want them to go through, when to fill out that form, to give the information, to make a purchase, or to create a lead gen form that gets to a call center? Why is there so much clutter presented around it?
Well, let's define this term clutter.
Yeah.
So when we say something is cluttered, we don't we think we're talking about there being a lot of elements on the page or something like that. But what's really happening is that the layout is not telling the visitor what on the page is important. So we can have an equal number of items on a screen or on an area of a page, but design it in such a way that the visitor knows what's important. There's a what the designers call a visual hierarchy. So on a landing page has only two jobs. And if you're working on a page that has more jobs than this, it's not a landing page. Number one, it has to keep the promise that was made in the ad or in the email or in the link or in the social media post. And number two, it has to bring the visitor to choice. It has to bring the visitor to a point where they have to make a choice. So, on effective landing pages, things like arrows and big buttons colored differently from the rest of the page work better in many cases because it's very obvious from the get go that we are asking you to do something. We're asking you to complete a form to get this report. We're asking you to purchase this product by clicking add to cart. Um, and so, uh, the lack of this visual hierarchy where designers want the button colors to be in the palette of the page causes a flattening of this hierarchy, and it isn't obvious what I should pay attention to, what I should focus on first, and how my eye should navigate this page so that I get number one, headline tells me I am in the right place and that my promise is being kept. Number two, I can see that I'm being asked to make a choice. Number three, I can see the points that are made down the page that reinforce why I should choose to fill out that form or make that call or click add to cart. And that is what we mean by cluttering. So it is what designers really should be the best at is taking a hold of the visitor's eye and gently guiding it through the experience on the page so that they see the promise and see the reasons they should take action, and it's very obvious how they should take action. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And so when you're designing those pages, what are some of the basic principles? Whether it's social proofing or you know uh, your buttons or anything else. What are those basic principles that you recommend for us to follow?
Well, I think beyond those two rules, a landing page can have a variety of different designs, layouts, and components. So I am more interested in talking about how you test your assumptions and your ideas when you're putting together a landing page. So one of the most important things a landing page can do is keep the promise. This is usually done by the headline that
Mm-hmm.
appears above the fold and is seen by almost 100% of all visitors that come because it's at the top when the page loads. It can also be heavily reinforced by the image that you choose to place on that. It's very popular to put these big, stylized images that are beautiful but not necessarily relevant to the offer. I think that you might be missing an opportunity there. But if I wanted to find the right combination of headline that keeps the promise, because you can keep the promise with a variety of combination of words, and image that makes me feel whatever I need to feel that this is a credible offer or that reinforces the headline, I would go and I would do a 5 second test on one of these amazing services that will let me put creative in front of 25 or 50 or 100 people for about $2 a piece. And that price keeps coming down, and the quality of those panels keeps going up as time progresses. I can show them a variety of combinations of headlines and images and find out which of those uh, elicits the correct answer from my audience. And the questions I would ask, showing them that, is does this company seem credible? What would you click on if you wanted to take action? What does this company do, or what does this page offer? Um, can you recall any specifics from your 5 seconds of seeing the page? The way this test works is you only see the image for the creative for 5 seconds, and then you get to answer a few questions. Um, the page that scores highest on those questions is doing a better job of communicating those very important things that must be communicated at the top of the page. And you can throw in all sorts of things. Should we put trust symbols up there, for instance, media outlets that have covered us in the past, or other customers' logos that have bought this product? Should that be above the fold? Should that be lower on the page? The 5 second test is a very effective way to do that. So that's one way that I would go about testing the ideas I had. We can also, there's a company called Sticky.ai. They're owned by Toby now, and they will do an eye tracking study for very cheap, for a few $100s. And again, this is a test. You give them the creative that you're considering, and they'll bring 25 or 50 or 100 people. And the cameras are so good in laptops now that they can tell where on the screen people are looking. So you can see how people are visually dissecting your page. If you've got a chance to put a page test out in front of real traffic, your audience, which is the best audience to put it in front of, you can use heat map reporting and scroll reporting to get a similar kind of an idea as to which of these layouts is really getting people down the page, which ones are getting people to scroll, and which ones are getting people to interact with the key elements. And on a landing page, it's keeping the promise, and here's how you take action.
Well, you made reference to the 5 second test, but where does landing page speed really pop up to you?
Well, it's biggest right now on mobile.
Yeah,
Most of us test our mobile sites sitting at our desk on our corporate Wi-Fi. But if you really want to understand a visitor's experience of mobile, then turn off the Wi-Fi, and
great
if you
point.
can turn off LTE, try a 3G connection. That'll give you a more realistic experience of
That's
out
great.
in the wild what people are
Yeah.
experiencing. So that would be the first place, and you'll see why responsive web designs often fall down because they don't take performance into account. But in general, I mean, I would um, I would make sure that there are no unreasonable delays in the loading of a page, because there are a number of studies that show that it can have a very negative effect. The mobile folks seem to bounce a lot faster on a low performing page.
Well, and you said something that can affect the speed, but you were referencing earlier those big, splashy images, but a hero image, and where do you see how a hero image throughout the journey? I mean, I'm a proponent of using the same types of hero images throughout. Whether it's a banner ad or some other type of ad. They click through the ad, they see a bad example, but a red car. And when they get to the landing page, to me, they should see a red car, not a blue car, because at least personally, I find that a lot of people get thrown off. Maybe I'm just thinking of people like me that have short attention spans, but they lose, their mindset of where they are in the journey. What
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
advice do you give people with creatives to help tie all that together to help people convert?
Well, it brings up a couple of things. First of all, Nielsen Norman Group and the Eisenberg brothers are, all they have well documented the importance of scent. I think letting people know that they're still on the right trail as they go through
Exactly.
a series of pages and experiences that educate them. But science has some very specific needs in marketing. And the most important thing science does is it lets us get away from our own biases. And so, one of the things that happens is what's called novelty bias. We're just leaving the era of the rotating carousel in which three or four or five or six large images are loaded and then rotated through as if people come to someone's website and they sit there and watch all of these images rotate through to see what's going to happen next. We've never seen that behavior, and those images have load time costs. So every template had them, every page added them, and so more people kept jumping on the bandwagon, so that they became very
Sure.
very popular. I'm seeing less and less of that now, and I think a lot of people are enjoying higher conversion rates by not relying on the slider to help them figure out what to communicate. The new thing that novelty effect is driving is these hero area background videos,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them are not relative to the offer that's on the page. They're just another big source of slow downloads. So when you put forth a hypothesis that these large images at the top of pages are helping, and that if you put them on consecutive pages, they help increase scent. It's a great hypothesis. So why not go ahead and test that? Why not do a 5 second test with that against a page that doesn't have a large image, and compare the load times on those two implementations, and see if you get a bump from that image higher than the drop that you get from the slower load times, then you've got a winner there. So I'm not going to tell you that that's a bad thing. And in fact, we've seen rotating carousels. We've been able to actually make them outperform a static image. And if you want that recipe, I'm happy to share that with you. The bottom line is that every one of these assumptions, especially big ones, if they're above the fold and they're large elements that could affect load times, you really should go and collect some data to make sure that what you're doing is going to significantly improve the experience of the page and help that page achieve its goals.
Agreed. So when you look at your, at least from your company's perspective, where you give a lot of the guidance, whether it's on website or mobile or landing page, what's the area that you with your clients sort of get pulled into needing to fix the most? Is it the mobile sites? Is it the traditional desktop landing pages, or is it your general, say, e-commerce desktop type page?
Yeah, mobile is where people are still confused.
Yeah.
It's the biggest opportunity. So for most clients, their mobile traffic will have passed their desktop traffic sometime in the last 24 months.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the fastest growing source of traffic. It is the kind of traffic that, for instance, B2B salespeople or B2B marketers say, oh, well, it's mobile. Our people aren't really making big decisions on mobile.
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
not true.
Right.
Um, and for other people, they're just throwing up their arms going, yeah, we get a lot of this mobile traffic, but we're really focused on the desktop because they have an orientation towards it. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think it is the mobile sites. Now, Google took us through several years of getting everybody to do a responsive web design.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the responsive web design only gets you about 50% of the way there. So even people with responsive web designs have mobile conversion rates that are a quarter or a half of their desktop sites. But to give you an idea, we have clients that have been working with us for several years. The mobile conversion rate is higher than the desktop, significantly higher than the desktop conversion rate. And it is just, we just acknowledge the fact that the mobile site has a completely different strategy. You have to treat it like a completely different site. Even if it's a responsive template, we change the way this template responds. We change the calls to action, we change the offers, and that way we're able to maximize that mobile traffic and get it to out convert.
And you have to approve it on a completely different platform or channel, if you will, because you still see people approving those templates, a PDF wireframe, if you will, on their desktop for a mobile view or for a
Yeah.
mobile page, and that always has always cracked me up. So, what are your favorite tools to either to implement or utilize day to day, either from an analytics package, heat maps, or other? But what are your kind of go to favorites of your own?
Well, for our design process, we start with what exists. So we love if you've been spending money on AdWords or Facebook ads, or even Instagram is now becoming more popular.
Mm-hmm.
We love to go in and see what we can learn from what has worked and not worked in those capacities. And we want to set you up so that we're actually tracking not clicks but conversions. We'll look at ratings and reviews. We'll read your live chat transcripts, anything where we can begin to get insights as to what uh, visitors are complaining about or what they're like about your site, to start to build out our list. We will so we're fans of Crazy Egg for heat
Sure.
map, scroll map, and session recordings. We like Inspectlet for session recordings, and those give us the tools we want. But this is another rich area where tools like Hotjar are providing quality tools all in one package for very low prices,
Very low.
very low monthly prices. So grab a Hotjar or a Session Cam or Mouseflow. These are really becoming suites of these tools that let you go in and figure out how people are interacting with the pages. So we love to look at problem pages through those eyes. As we get further along and start developing hypotheses and doing creative, I mentioned usertesting.com. I think every site should at least, especially take their mobile site through 4 or 5 of these usertesting.com sessions. Lately, we've been looking at Validately, which
Mm-hmm.
is proving itself to be a less expensive version of user testing.
Sure.
I just love the tools that we have. We've all gotten some great data from user testing. I feel a little bit loyal to them. Um, and then we're going to be taking mock-ups out to Usability Hub is our choice for the 5-second test, or a question test, or a mouse click test, or we can even do some small navigation tests that have multiple pages. Um, all we're trying to do through this whole thing is two things. Number one, we want to increase the sample size of people who are influencing our creative decisions. So if I'm an agency, I might have a team of 3 or 4 people, maybe 5 people working on the site. That's a sample size of 5. And then I get the client involved, and they might bring another 4 or 5 people. So I've got a sample size of 10 informing this design decision. Well, we want to see 100 people looking at these creatives and telling us if it makes sense, if they can solve problems with this particular layout, design, element, whatever it is. And that's why these tools are so amazing. Um, so I mentioned Sticky.ai. If you want to do an eye tracking study, it's just we spent so much time and money doing our own eye tracking studies in 2010 or 2011. I'm fascinated that I could do this in an afternoon without leaving my desk and have a
Right.
hundred
Right.
people's eyes measured. I can give you a graphic that shows you how, the different tools that we've been using along the path. But I do think it's the golden age of tools. And for right now, tools are not going to fix your problems, but there's no reason for you to just be guessing or to be taking the opinion of a few people that are in your organization.
Agreed. So, you've talked about this with tools, and one of the things that it always worries me, and will worried me 10 years ago, will worry me 10 years from now, but it's the speed of tech tools, and how many more are coming as you look at the Martech stack, and how it seems to be growing almost at an exponential basis at this point. But where do you see conversion rate optimization headed in the future, especially as you apply it to all the different tools we use, and with AI, which will advance that so much more?
Yeah. That is a good question. So I've been saying for a couple of years that I thought we are our conversion optimization agency, and we are 100% conversion optimization. We don't sell any services that focus on driving traffic. Now it's always becomes a part of our strategy to make sure that we've got quality traffic coming. And I thought with the advent of AI, where it takes less and less traffic to answer more and more questions, that we would become more of a personalization agency, because we're the guys that when the test is done running, we actually go in and see how different segments of your traffic reacted to experiments that we ran and new designs, how they worked. And so we can actually find that a page did very well for Android visitors, and iOS visitors hated it. So why not personalize and give each of them the experience they like? It creates some challenges if you want to keep A/B testing as you keep slicing up the traffic, which is why the AI, the machine learning algorithms, can really help with that. I'm thinking though that design agencies are where the low hanging fruit are. They have the
Mm-hmm.
big projects and the big budgets, and they're sitting ducks for anyone who comes along and can bring data to the decision making. Um,
Could not agree
you know,
more.
yeah, we're getting called by agencies all the time now, and it is because the clients are saying, "Wait a minute, don't show me. I don't want to see a wireframe. Show me some data that shows me what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and why you drew this particular wireframe." I teach my students. I say, "Here's the first question that will open up your world: is when the agency comes to you with 3 mock-ups and tells you to pick one. That's when you stand flat-footed and you say, you know what? I'm pretty smart. I know my client, but I'm not a designer. Go collect some data that tells me which one of those I should pick." They're going to look at you like you have 3 heads. Then they're going to
Right.
call us, and I think they're vulnerable. Um, I think they're very vulnerable. And if I if I keep speaking, and if we start growing out our ability to do great design, I think we're going to be taking over creative agencies pretty easily. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I had the pleasure of hearing you speak at a conference, and I'm always curious. Most of my career has been as a data-driven marketer. I've had a pretty big, heavy focus on data throughout it. But, what's the most important advice that you give to, fellow marketers today when looking at CRO and what they need to learn and apply?
So my biggest advice is they're going to have to embrace their inner scientist. Now, this sounds really scary, and I could probably choose a softer word than science, but that would imply that I didn't think they were smart enough, and they are. We
Well, you
have
were
worked
probably
with.
wearing your white lab coat when you told it to them.
Yes, I probably was, which science told me to do. But we've had Russian literature majors become experimenters
Hmm.
that we've worked with at our clients. We've given out hundreds of lab coats, and we're sending it. We do it at the end of the year. We're sending another batch out. I think there are 50 lab coats going out this year to clients and partners and people who have shown that they get it. And it is the tools are making it very easy. You just need to know a few rules of behavioral data. You need a few rules of statistics, and you are making good decisions. I mean, we already know how to do this. Every time we go to Facebook and we check how many likes, comments, and shares we've got on a Facebook post, we're using behavioral data to decide what we're going to post more of and what we're going to post less of. We're already wired for behavioral science. We just got to put a few disciplines in place so that we're totally backing out our own biases as we get into it. Anyone can do this, and they're going to have to.
So, what kind of places do you recommend for people to go get the training and coaching that they need to learn to be better conversion scientists?
So, like I said, I think what you need to do is get to a point where you're going to do your first experiment. You're going to pull up Usability Hub or a Helio or a Validately or user testing, and you're going to get some data. Or you're going to go out and install Hotjar and start spending some time with session recordings and heat maps. So, what is it that's standing in your way to do that? Do you feel like you need to be smart with analytics? You need to get that training first. I can recommend an awesome program from measurementmarketing.io. Chris Mercer does a fantastic job of bringing folks that aren't comfortable with analytics along. We offer a training and coaching from Conversion Sciences. We have a training that will equip you to do what we do for our clients, and you can do it in house. So, anybody who wants to become a conversion scientist, this is a great starting point for them. And then, of course, the best selection of courses are at Pep Laya's Conversion XL. Go to conversionxl.com, and he has some of the most qualified people teaching those courses, and we even have some of our people go and look at those. So I think those are the best places to get started if you want to add a little science to your marketing.
Brian, it's that special time in the show. Are you ready for the 5 most interesting questions that you're going to be asked today?
Well, I'll tell you in about 5 questions if I'm ready.
That works for me. All right, so here we go. A/B testing or multivariate?
A/B testing.
For a man in Austin, South by Southwest or Austin City Limits Music Festival?
Hmm. I will say ACL for the program, South by Southwest for the parties.
There you go. So, learning center of preference in your own edification, your alma mater, Texas A&M, or as I've heard you reference before, the Wizard Academy.
No, definitely the Wizard Academy.
Not bad. Behavioral data or first party customer data?
Oh, behavioral data, always.
No softball. And the most important question that you're going to be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
If there's gravy, it's biscuits.
Not bad. Good man. So, Brian, where can people find out more about you, follow your thought leadership, marketing advice, and more?
Yeah, come over to conversionsciences.com. We We have a blog that will teach you a lot of things. We've got a mini course that you can take there that will take you through some of my favorite articles. And we've even started organizing the content into CRO 101, CRO 102, and CRO 103 levels. So you can plug in wherever you feel like you're at. Like I said, if it's all about experiments, and if I can get one more person to do an experiment in the next week or 30 days, I have done my job.
Agreed. So agreed. Brian, thank you so much for being with us on A Shark's Perspective.
Thanks for having me.
So there was my conversation with Brian Massey, the original conversion scientist, founder of Conversion Sciences, and a subject matter expert in conversion rate optimization. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with him. First, you used to have to make creative decisions on the front end based on survey data. The creative teams would then make decisions based upon that. However, we can today find out so much more on the fly and so much more quickly. As Brian said, entrepreneurs are bringing us marketing tools that allow us really to question almost every assumption we make along the design and development process using real behavioral data. And so important, that data helps us get rid of our biases. Whether it's a large hero or a video or a blue button or a red one or anything else on a page, you can use logic, but you should test what works against what doesn't and use data to declare your winner. What you think may be a best practice is often an assumption, but you should collect data on how a page should achieve its goals. That conversion science will show you the way. Second, for a lot of marketers, they still add too much clutter to a landing page. Looking through the lens of optimization, though, can be so much more different than what may look good from a design standpoint. I love this quote from Brian. What designers really should be the best at is taking hold of the visitor's eye and gently guiding it through the experience on the page so that they see the promise and they see the reasons that they should take action. And it's very obvious how they should take action. I agree. But as an additional note, you've heard me say also that the confused buyer always says no. So think about the content, the alignment you need for a page to be successful. When you optimize across channels and campaigns, use similar imagery and style and verbiage that keeps people on the trail and on your scent. Where they land should reflect part of that journey and how they got there. Third, most people still need to optimize their sites better for mobile. Brian sees it most often with his clients as well, and page speed matters especially in this mobile society. I loved his out in the wild test regarding responsive web design. Take your cell phone off your Wi-Fi network, drop LTE, and even go 3G, and see how quickly your page loads. Everyone tests page speed in a speed vacuum, if you will, but that's not what happens when you're often working with just 1 or 2 bars on your phone. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. It's been my honor to spend this time with you in order to discuss another one of the many components that makes up marketing today. So let's optimize your career and help you learn. Join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.